Alright guys, super short lecture today. We're going to be discussing the major masses and how they connect with the rest of the body. I have already made some sketches at the start where we have discussed how a figure with only major masses looks. So you might see a figure here with only major masses. These are the major masses: head, rib cage, and pelvis. This is them separately: head, rib cage, pelvis. And of course, we have also this, which is head, rib cage, pelvis. What you might be of note is how the spine connects all these three major masses. So the spine, when we look at the head, we take a head like this, for instance, right? I hope you kind of see what the head is doing here. If we look at the head, we know that from the back of here connects the spine. It connects like first like this, then it kind of goes forward and then kind of goes back again. This is the basic shape of the spine. If we were to separate it, it would be like this. Now we can connect the individual things. So this hugs the rib cage, like that. So we can draw the rib cage based off of what the spine is doing. As you can see here, we have kind of done the spine here and the rib cage here. And this connects to the bottom of the pelvis, like this. The rib cage and the pelvis, you can represent them with two shapes: a circle or a square. Those are the two shapes I would recommend. So the rib cage, we'll start with a little oval or a long circle, and then we'll do a dot here, and we will separate it into two parts. This is one of the ways to represent a rib cage. This is very close to its true shape. Now you can also make it into a square, as you can see here, where we will start and make it into a square. This is very good because it shows us the turning edge, which is the part where the light and shadow separates from the rib cage. As you can see, it goes along its surface almost like if it were a square. That's why the square way of drawing the rib cage really pays off. It also shows the perspective, like this. And now you know precisely where it is in perspective. This is why I usually prefer to do both the circle and the square. Anyways, we will be also discussing what balance is. Balance is the angles that ribcage, pelvis, and the ribcage, the pelvis, and the head have on each other. So, as you can see here, if you were to draw just a figure doing a little, let's draw a very simple figure doing a very simple pose. So I will do one that's tilting its head like this, right? It's tilting his head, going like that, sort of leaning forward, right? Maybe he will do something like this. Like this. So now we've got a very simple figure here. We can draw the rest of the body too. I'll tuck his hand. Now we can look what the individual parts are doing. So let's look. What is the angle of the head? You can do this by drawing two lines here. As you can see, the head is angled like this. Let's look at the rib cage. Rib cage would start around here, then go along this place, like that, on the back, and it's a circle, like this. The rib cage is about 1.5 heads tall. We can also separate it here, the perspective, right? And even into the squares like I discussed. And this will show us that its angle is like this. Slightly tilted. Maybe even more, honestly. And then the pelvis. In here, it's like this. So its angle would be like that. As you can see, it's sort of balancing against the other two angles. Overall, in a pose, angles are very important. The more the angles are dynamic, the more they are shifted, the more the pose is extreme. However, a pose like this, where the angles are very, very dynamic, always needs a counterbalance. The counterbalance here, in this case, is the pelvis. As you can see, everything is tilted like this. Alright, let us start exploring the major masses with these gestures. That we will start on top of a gesture, then we'll draw the major mass. It's awfully similar. Alright, this seems easy. Okay, I'll do charcoal. Again, gesture. Back of the hand. Forward. Back. Release. It's a bit long. Right. Let us identify where the major masses would be in this pose. So, over the torso, it will basically be ribcage. Basically be something like this, where it's very much tilted here, something like that. Then we can obviously get to the pelvis. We're in here, the torso is at an angle, as you can see here, like this. The pelvis is also at an angle. The angle is a lot more straight, like that. And you can see that here. And then the two legs. We take the bump that's up from here. We can obviously get them to do that. So these would be the major masses. Obviously the head, we started with it already. We use it anyway in gesture, so that's already drawn. that would be the figure, including the two major masses. Let's try another one. Oh, not this one. This one seems simple, sure. I'll move it down a little bit for you guys. And I'll sip some tea. Alright. We'll again start with gesture and we'll introduce this kind of structure as we go along. You know what? Let's try something else. We will do both. We will do both gesture and structure. So let's start with your structure. If we look at this 3D, we can immediately determine that the first... We'll start with the torso then. Or maybe the head, honestly. Let's start with the head. We'll draw the head. We'll draw where she's roughly looking. Her angle, right? But she's looking like this. And that's our head. Now we've got a head, right? Now, we can kind of go off of that into, I drew this torso before, I apologize for that, the torso. So the torso seems to me to be a little bit tilted, right? So let's first do the angle then. The angle is like this. And kind of go from the head to the torso. And something like that. And we get the torso. Or specifically, in this case, the ribcage, right? You could even do the central line of the ribcage. Now, kind of go from that to the pelvis, which in here is pushed back a little bit more. Think like this. And then the two legs. Now you might notice, this doesn't look very dynamic, nor does it look very good, does it? And that's because this method of drawing figures is flawed, inherently. I mean, we kind of did it a little bit wrong here with the perspective. We should have done something more like this. So let's try and see how it would look when I do this small correction. Now it does look better, but I don't think it saves the figure drawing, does it? Even do this. And of course we can do the hands as well. So down here. And this is our sort of puppet illustration. The legs could be a bit larger, honestly, like this. I think that could kind of play a role into how good it looks. But generally, I would say that puppet illustrations just don't get you very dynamic results. It's fine, but it's definitely not the best. So let us try to do the same thing and again start with gesture. So we can start with the less or more dynamic gesture. I will choose the more dynamic here because I think the pose generally is a bit less dynamic, so maybe this will help. And we'll just start with the torso, kind of like this. Do this wrapping line, which is essentially this. As you can see, I'm already kind of working with it as a shape. I'm doing it a little bit lower, but whatever. Same here, right? I'm doing this, going inside this where the belly button would be. Pretty cool, pretty cool. And then I'm working with rest, right? We're still doing gesture here, not yet anything else. So you can kind of get a line here and kind of go off of that into the head. As we've discussed, is tilted a little bit, so let's do that. This can work for the head. Shoulder here, arm goes down, straight, like this, this arm, and just go straight. Two legs. So in here I will go like this. And it's like to be here. And here I'll just do this. And as you can see, this kind of, I think, better conveys the sort of dynamics of the drawing itself. And of course, nothing makes either one of these, well, if you want the sort of dynamic rhythm and gesture, then this will obviously be the preferred method for you. If you don't really care about that, then this should still be the preferred method for you. Now, I don't know if I did this one the best. Definitely could use some work, honestly. But it's probably good enough to where I could develop this gesture further if I wanted to. And again, you can just sort of start drawing the body on top of it like this. Already got it. Okay. Already got both sides of the pelvis. Yeah, we've already got even the two legs here. And ultimately, I think this pose ends up being a little bit more convincing. You can try for last time here, and I think we'll end the video with this, so we can start here. Of course, the method we're learning is the second one, the one where we start from a gesture. The pure one is more for you to understand how the sort of muscles and, well, major masses especially interact, even without any preconceived gesture or anything, just pure major masses. I think, okay, I don't know what I did here for that. I think instructors like Loomis, for instance, would have you do a lot of this, where gesture is more of an afterthought. However, we are putting gesture forefront because we want very dynamic drawings. Right, that's the head. Now let's start with the rest of the major masses. So, kind of doing something like this. Let's develop it. As you can see, we already have the angle. Is this? Which is a little bit more extreme than the angle in there, so we might have to a little bit shorter, but the figure there is also tilted like that, so it's not exactly wrong, but it is a little bit exaggerated, so let's make it a little bit less. Like that. Let's continue. Notice. This one, I think, is like this. Kind of counterbalances it. And again, X. As you can see, he has a very wide pose here. Yeah, so something like this, right? Then if we were to separate it into the squares, and that's our pose. Now let's try this with gesture. Actually sip some tea. Might need to read. So again, in gesture, we kind of start with the big ideas of where the flow is. So it's kind of strange. Okay, where the flow is. So in here it would be kind of this motion. Just kind of going like that. Holds this. Will be the one hand. Second one, he kind of does this, and that kind of links back into the second hand. Can already do wrapping lines here. And it kind of is more about the developing of the rest, so I would say it's kind of wraps into the rest of the body as well. and wrapping lines. And yeah, we can sort of start developing it from here, probably. Into the pelvis again. So obviously this would have to get cut, so... and to both of the legs. Honestly, even this kind of shows that we do have a little bit more of the dynamicness here. Though the legs here are a bit more confused, I would say. Isn't really an issue normally. It's not something too hard to fix, right? Just measure it, cut it. What you do have is a pretty decent kind of base you can build on again, even with the major masses already present here. I did edit the legs a little bit, as you can see, but now I think they work quite well. You can add even more wrapping lines to convey it better. But yeah, you can already start doing anatomy on top of this. If we compare the two. I think you can see sort of that one is a lot more dynamic than the other. And that's the beauty of starting from just F50. This is just generally case when you start with gesture, then develop into the rest. Balance would of course be something like this. That is the belt. So, for next time, I will first show you for a couple of my older drawings where I explored these concepts as well. And that will also be to show you what I think you should practice. Everything is falling. Jesus. Sorry. We won't be doing another one. This one's cool, but we will not be doing another one. Okay, maybe turning that on. Right. Let's open my folder. I'll try and find it. So, This is the kind of thing we were doing today. Very rudimentary. Sort of shape, almost robot-like drawings. Right? There's a couple that I did. Kind of pure object. Here, a little bit of bridge management. From memory, of course, this isn't like big fancy. And I think this is what we are doing today. This is what we're practicing, so this would be nice for you to practice as well. There's a couple of worse ones, of course. After which, we will be moving on to stuff like this, where we take that and we start putting more structure into these things. Drawing musculature. I look like this. Sort of course, also pretty old drawings. I'll look if I have some more. Right, stuff like this. Gesture plus structure. If we add even more structure, it will look like this. That's what we'll be kind of doing at the end. Even some bad ones. Stuff like this. All of these are basically what we've already learned how to do. This is just basic shading put on top of the structures that we've already learned how to do. That is including these. All of these you should now be able to make yourself if you're at this point in the lectures. Maybe not the legs, maybe not the shading here, the muscles here. Definitely not this, we're not quite there yet. But you should be able to make stuff like this. Probably even better, because I was pretty bad at this point, right? You should be able to make stuff like this. And if we go a bit further, and I look even with my older sketchbooks, which are actual sketchbooks. So, let me pause this. Well, of course, you're basically doing stuff like this. This is literally Bridgman. Rudimentary shape into rudimentary gesture. Combining the two like this. This is what we're doing today. Sort of basic sketches. Go up with the idea of that, like this. You should be able to do all of these. I have more. Let me just find them real quick. So these ones. What I thought was a really good practice was this, where I sort of took the, as you can see, some of these are very long, like the distance between these two is nowhere near that big, but where I took and drew the normal stuff, and then I draw the anatomy behind it and below it. So this might be a good practice for you. Both of these are not very good. As I said, these are very old, so obviously they're not very good. Some here, right? They're basic shapes. Now I'm here too. Yeah. So this might be a practice you might be interested in as well. Anyways, all of this is just the idea of putting the three major shapes on top of an already pre-existing gesture. And that is literally all we want to do. And then from that, we will start shading and splitting everything else into objects too. But for now, it is just the simple idea of putting things on top of the gesture. I hope you enjoyed today's lesson. It is not that long. It was a lot shorter actually initially, but I did want to extend it a little bit with examples and stuff. I hope you enjoyed it, and that will be all for today. Thank you very much for watching it, and pardon my sort of incompetence. I think I think today the drawings were not best. I think they were okay. I think they were good enough to demonstrate sort of the point, but I definitely could have done better. Regardless, that will be all. And also, maybe, perhaps, before I actually close it off, we can look at like the more developed drawings after this stage. So I'm not sure if I actually showed any, like this, for instance, where you take the existing ideas and you develop it even more. This is basically already what we're doing, but this one has some additional structure added to it. So I'm just kind of trying to look for national studies of them in here. Yeah, even stuff like this, for instance, works, which is some basic shading on top of a gesture. Yeah, no, I guess that's about it. So again, I hope you enjoyed the lecture. I wish you all good luck. Until next time. And keep in mind these practices, keep in mind how bad some of these drawings were when I started, and I'm sure you'll get there in no time into doing these effortlessly, or with a little bit of struggle like I did today. Alright.